If you've had a miscarriage, there is a very good chance that you were told that unfortunately these things do happen, and they happen a lot more often than you think, but better luck next time. It's not until you've had several miscarriages that investigations do start, but they happen to usually only start with the woman. In a way, it makes sense because you're the one that's carrying the pregnancy, but it's not because you had the miscarriage that it must mean that something is wrong with you. There is a huge blind spot when it comes to miscarriage caregiving, and that is the male factor. So I want to take care of that with you today. Hello, lovely. My name is Ingrid Sky, and I'm a natural fertility specialist. And I help couples worldwide to improve their fertility and fall pregnant naturally with my DIY programs, my live programs, with one-on-one care, but also with the videos on this channel. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about the male factor in miscarriages, because I see this is being overlooked so much, and it's a huge shame because, first of all, it puts a lot of pressure on you as a woman, as if you're the one that is losing the pregnancy, like you're losing your car keys, and that you need to work on your egg quality, on your body, on whatever, your mindset even, when there's often a big factor, and that is the male factor, that contributes a lot to miscarriages, and that is often fixable. So why is the father so important when it comes to avoiding a miscarriage? Well, first of all, it's important to understand that we as a woman aren't the one knitting our babies together. In our family, we do joke about that a lot. Like, I've been knitting the kids in my womb, and maybe I didn't pay enough attention when I was, well, for example, Jojo's left ear is a little bit folded, so I didn't pay enough attention. I was probably distracted when I was knitting that part. And my mom jokes about it, like, well, I did spend a lot of time on your outside, but hey, your inside is kind of a mess. You and I know that's not how it works. Egg and sperm, they meet together, which means they're equally contributing genetic material for your baby to develop. And yes, it's possible that your body isn't able to sustain a pregnancy or nurture a pregnancy, but another aspect is where a miscarriage happens because the embryo no longer develops. It's the embryo that is doing the developing. It's the embryo that is multiplying cells and specializing cells. And in all of these different stages that it's developing, like a heart or the spine or the brain, something can happen that stalls the development and that the embryo no longer lives, and it results in a miscarriage. Everything the embryo needs to develop starts with the material that is given to it, the egg and the sperm. So you see where a big part of embryo development comes from the dad. If sperm quality is impaired, there is a bigger risk that it impairs the development of the baby. So can you check if sperm is in good shape? Well, yes and no. Of course, you have the regular sperm test that will check if the count is high enough, so how many sperm are actually going for that egg, and that determines how big of a chance you've got each cycle to fall pregnant. The fewer sperm you've got, the smaller the chances that a sperm will eventually end up with the egg and merge. Then there is motility. How does the sperm move? It needs to move into the direction of the embryo and move fast enough and not, well, chase its tail, for example. And we're looking at sperm shape. Sometimes they have two heads or two tails, and that is their morphology. And if the shape or the motility of sperm isn't great, then that can sometimes give you a clue as to why you are miscarrying, because it says something about the quality of the sperm. Sometimes that all looks fine. It's possible that you get sperm test results back and they say, yeah, it's all within parameters, but you're still miscarrying. That doesn't say everything. It doesn't mean that the sperm is completely fine. It just means there are no red flags in the things that we've checked: motility, morphology, and count. So there is another test that you can request, and I think it's being offered more routinely than 10 years ago when I was practicing, and that is DNA fragmentation. DNA fragmentation looks at whether the DNA inside of the sperm remains intact, because if it is damaged, then that can also contribute to poor embryo development. But even if DNA fragmentation comes back fine, again, that doesn't say everything if you're still miscarrying, because the reality is every medical test gives us interesting information that we can work with, But all of the tests are based on parameters that we've agreed on, and there are going to be people that fall outside of those parameters. Not to mention, human biology is really complex, and even though we are learning more every day, discovering more every day, there are so many things we haven't discovered yet, and it would be so arrogant of us to think that we know everything. So while it's encouraging if sperm test results come back good with count, morphology, motility, and even DNA fragmentation, I would not discard the male factor as contributing to recurring miscarriages if that were the case. And if sperm test results do come back with poor morphology or motility and count and DNA fragmentation, know that there's something you can do about it too, because sperm is being formed every 90 days. So you've got 90 days to feed the sperm, create better circumstances for that sperm to develop into the best sperm that it can be. So in my clinic, when I'm seeing a couple that has recurring miscarriages, I will investigate the man's health, regardless of what the results are of his sperm test or whether he's done any at all. I look at inherited disease tendencies. If there's a destructive disease tendency in the family, that is something that could contribute to poorer sperm quality that lead to miscarriages. I look at nutrition, not just current nutrition. I look at environmental exposure, and I also look at metabolic health. When it comes to environmental exposure, a big problem for sperm quality is heavy metal toxicity, because it affects the production of sperm in the first place, so hormonal health, but it also affects the quality of the sperm itself and the DNA of sperm. If you're interested in learning more about the impact of heavy metals on male and female fertility, I've got a free video guide that you can sign up to, and I'll make sure to provide the link down below. It's completely free, and I think you'll find it really insightful because this is a topic that isn't often discussed. And if you've had a miscarriage, my heart really goes out to you. It is such a lonely spot to be in, and the fear of it happening again can be overwhelming. Even if you do become pregnant again and you get past week 7, past week 10, past week 12, that fear really stays. And I just want to send you a big hug and remind you to take good care of yourself, not just physically, but also emotionally, because losses, pregnancy losses, they stay with you for forever. That's just the way it is. And the pain, it gets better. You learn to live with it. And especially when you're able to have your rainbow baby, that is so healing. But just know that it's okay to keep having that grief, even if people around you feel like you should have let go of something a long time ago, or if they tell you, well, it was just a clump of cells, what are you crying over? It wasn't a clump of cells. It was your baby, and it is your baby. And you are entitled to have that grief and to mourn. I've got lots of material on how to deal with miscarriages from an emotional to a physical level, whether you've just had one or you've already had several and you want to reduce the risk of having another one. If you're interested in that, have a look at the link to the playlist that I have in the description down below. And now that you know how important the male factor is in reducing the risk of another miscarriage, you may be interested in this video on improving sperm quality. And in that video, I talk about how to treat the man, not just the sperm. Just click on the thumbnail on your screen right now to go and watch it. And in the meantime, see you in the next video. Bye.